Hello, hello. How's it going? Started a little bit late here. Bunch of updates that I did. I did it earlier. I guess it was yesterday. And I updated OBS, the streaming software that I use, and I think I forgot to update a plugin because it was crashing every time I hit stream, which is an unfortunate time to find out that there's an issue. There were a couple other changes that I ended up fixing and dealing with, but unfortunately that one was one that I didn't discover until I hit the button. So a little bit late, but we're rolling. Today we are continuing what we started last week, which was digging into elk-native, which is a Tauri app integration working with elk. And elk is a primarily web front end to like a view layer over Mastodon, essentially. So like it's an alternative to the web front end that ships as a default with Mastodon. And what they're doing is they're working on kind of skinning it with a feel like Twitter, but improving some of it along the way as well. And we started a Tauri app version of it that like containerizes it, and we were poking around with some of the things that we could do with to make a native integration valuable. So there's a PWA already. That would be Progressive Web App for those that aren't familiar. It's a technology that's been around for a handful of years now, but I don't think it's well established as far as a typical use. It's the intent is it's supposed to take a web page and make it feel app-like, to where you can click a button in your browser and it installs it as like a web app. It's gotten better over the years, but I don't think it caught on very deeply because it had issues and it wasn't terribly easy to get working. You have to do web workers and such, which are not easy. But even still, if you use Progressive Web App, you don't have all of the possible access to like the native OS functions. Trade-offs, obviously, potentially easier to implement and a little bit more cross-platform without having to deal with the cross-platform. Probably one of the downsides is it's sort of browser specific, and you can't do things like file operations, and some of the notifications and such I think are a little bit more limited. But yeah, so we were messing around with a Tauri app version of it, and there was a couple things that we had plucked around with. I was going to open up a PR, but I never actually got around to it. It's been a bit of a busy week here. We had explored a few things, first within the Tauri integration, but also within playing around with the PWA badge and the update button that's sort of like currently tied into. And we were also poking around with seeing if we could trigger shortcuts. So I think one of the most, I guess I'll say the most obvious thing, it could definitely use work, is the update process. So right now it's a default pop-up that opens up and shows the user a dialog information with telling about the update, and you basically say yes or no. But it's really hard to read. We are piping in content that looks Markdown-esque, but it's just like a straight string in this default box. So that experience can definitely be improved. The painful thing is that it's not terribly easy to test this. And the thing that we were playing around with was registering a hotkey that we could press to trigger the same event, or a similar event that we could also listen to. So we can have something as we're running our Tauri app that is repeatable, that we can easily call up and kind of test this process. It's not going to be perfect. I doubt we'll be able to match the whole process exactly, but I think it'll be good. Good enough at least to like test the process of, we get an update event, we listen to it, we react to it, and then we follow on through. So the thought that we had is, rather than using the default dialog, was to open up a new web view window. So we had thrown in this script. My view is not great. I can understand what's happening and read it, but my knowledge of how and when to use specific APIs is not great. I think this would work, but it seems to only be kind of working. But also, I'm not a huge fan of actually having the listener for the hotkey on the front end, because that means that the more that we throw on the front end, the more that the front end has to think about what context it's running in. So if we can control any of that sort of separate context on the back end, and have the front end just listen for a couple flags and maybe hide an element or whatnot, I think that's probably going to be the easiest as far as maintenance of keeping the web app its own thing with a single concern. Single being sort of relative here, but a little bit of separation of concerns, to where the front end is more just, we are talking to a backend, and that backend could be Mastodon, backend could be some Rust stuff. But this whole update flow, if we're opening up a separate web view window, we don't even have to get into the Elk web app stuff at all. We should be able to like kind of keep it all completely separate. So we played around with this. We weren't able to find a way to do it with Rust, but Fabian, that's also on the Tauri team, gave me a pointer that we have an example of using a global shortcut in Rust. So this is what we were looking for last week, but I ended up not running across it as we were poking around. But I think this is going to be the key. So what we're going to do is we're going to end up basically removing this. Yeah, we put the API in there. Yeah, see, not having to do this would be really nice. I think that will help with maintenance, if we can kind of keep these as separate concerns. So I'm just going to go ahead and discard those. This also gets a little bit more complex too, because as it stands right now, TBD if it changes, but as it stands right now, this whole folder is a submodule. I don't know if you can read that very well, but can I zoom in on the, did that work? I think it worked, yeah. That's a submodule. So as we're working on the Tauri app, it would be nice not to have to touch anything on the Elk side of things. The Elk web app. We may at some point want to try to integrate these into the same repo, but for right now, ideally keep it as separate as we can. I think that's going to help just with keeping context. Kind of containerized in specific use cases. So, all that out of the way, we also played around with, let's make this a little bit bigger, a system tray. So we have a system tray. I didn't PR that up either. I think we probably will want to. I didn't bring it up in the Discord though. I don't think. I know Jonas and I were chatting a bunch about what to do and deal with a bunch of this. So I'm failing to remember if it was in conversations with Jonas and on the stream, or if it was also in the main Discord. But we'll bring that up. It feels like something that's potentially useful, especially as we enable notifications. Being able to have the app running in the background minimized to the tray would be nice, because you can have it running and then you should be able to still see the notification. And this system tray stuff is going to sort of be the hook for that. So we'll just leave that in there. That, I believe, is our only edit. We do have global shortcuts enabled already. Oh, that was just my IDE formatting. So we do have the system tray stuff and the global shortcut stuff in there. I don't know much like that. I also have a plugin that I don't remember what it's called. Maybe it's one of the Toml ones, I think. It might be better Toml. I think there's a Rust version of it too. Oh, I don't have all these installed. Okay, so I guess I just have that one and that one. I was thinking I had a bunch of these Toml things installed. But yeah, that's what's doing the formatting. The thing that I do like about this, though, is it gives us... here, let's open up just the Toml itself. It gives us these little check marks to let us know that, hey, this is the latest. We do actually have this on a dev branch here. So that is not actually the latest. But I also have in here, if you hover over it, you can see like what the latest versions are. So, I don't know. I think it's nice, this whole like reordering of the cargo Toml, though. I like it, but also if I'm working in the context of other people working on this, you know, a whole bunch of changes that are sort of just formatting aren't always the most worthwhile thing to spend time on discussing. Okay, so we want to add this. This is in the API example. And we're on a specific tag. Let's duplicate. Is this still on the dev branch? We've got a bunch of branches now. I don't know if it might have been extracted out as something separate. System tray. Oh, you can, with the API example, you can do a new window from the system tray. That's kind of cool. Set a title. Huh. Yeah, so this message dialog builder, I think, is what the default one is using. The default, like, updater. I'm not seeing it. So it might just be on an old... Have I looked at lib yet? Window builders, on page load, handler. Might just be on that old one. Okay, so this is what we want to do. And we've got app.run. This is triggering on ready. So we have like events. When the app is in certain states, it's gonna like fire off these events. So when the app is marked as ready, then we register a global shortcut. And when there's a window event, then we do this. So this might be something else that we want to look at doing. I don't know if this existed when we did a while back now. That was probably, oof. Was that further than last year? We did a bunch of stuff with system trays. And what we were doing with the system tray app was we expected the user to have this app running, and that the only interaction was basically through the system tray. So like on Windows, you can kind of see it, but drop an icon in there, get the and all the interaction happens through that system tray. So it's sort of like a background running app that might have notifications, or you click on there to do things. And the idea was that when you clicked on it, it would open up the window. So rather than seeing the actual dialog, you see a web view window instead. And what we were doing was just on load hiding that main window. This might be a way as well where we could, if all the windows are actually closed, however the user might actually make that happen, we could prevent the app from exiting and only handle exit events through the system tray. So all that being said, we are basically creating an app object, I guess. It's not really an object, but we're using the builder, which this is sort of the entry point, I guess, for the app. The Tauri builder default setup. We have a bunch of setup, and then we have a bunch of other events. Here's the system tray event that we were talking about that we also have in ours. Oh, they do a .clone. Interesting. I wonder why that is. But they're assigning it to a variable. So what we're doing is we're just firing this thing off. Boom, go. The way that Rust does returns the last, it ends up basically being the last function that you run. If you don't give it any like variable, it instead returns it. So like the return or last like executing step in this function is the Tauri builder. That'll make it a little bit easier to see. But what they're doing is they're saying let builder equal this. And it is mutable. That's what the mute is. And then they're doing an invoke handler. Log operations and perform requests. Invoke handler and a build. And build generates context. Okay, so we got a couple of things going on in our implementation. We're doing builder default, and we're loading some plugins and doing the system tray and the non-system event. That's what they have all the way up to the builder. We are also doing a .expect and a .run though. The .run is the thing that's like literally running the app. So in here, they're calling setup, and that's it. They return it as a variable. I'm not sure why this is needing to be done. Something clearly Mac OS specific. So when you bundle this app, it will only run this chunk of code if your operating system is macOS. So that this is nice with the with your integrating with Rust, because we can, like these global shortcuts, we can set them up to only run when we're like in dev mode. So in prod, just straight up don't even bundle them in there. Allow unused mute. Interesting. So after they go through that whole thing, then they do a .build and a .expect. So rather than doing .run, they do a .build. And then once it is built, another macOS thing, activation policy. I haven't seen that before. This is definitely getting into the more advanced stuff that I haven't like drawn with. And like this is the kind of things that I think are going to be valuable to as we further develop the Tauri docs. I don't think that's in the docs, at least that I can think of offhand. So all that being said, we end up wanting to change how we're starting this. I don't think we need this, so I think we can kind of just jump straight to this. So this error is specifically while running a Tauri application. But we're doing this instead. So it's going to be while building a Tauri application. We still want that expect for the run, but that's going to be called later on. So this is going to be end up being a build. And well, building a Tauri application. While building the elk-native application. So now we can say, I think we could probably just return this directly. Maybe we say let built. And I don't think we need to do mute. I suspect there's other things going on that require it. But Rust is going to help us out with that, I believe. So maybe we just call this app actually. And then we can do app.run. And we'll swap this out to make that error a little bit more valuable. And I think we essentially want to do this. We do need, so this is like a list of events. They're doing a match at this top level here. So we need this as well. We're calling app.run. We are matching based on the events that are coming in. Run event is probably in import. Looks like it. And we'll give that a save. Sure, let's import that. And now this is going to do similar to what we were doing before, except with on the Rust side of things. And here what we're doing is we are grabbing a window and setting the title. So we're basically, this will, if we run this command, control 1, we will change the title. Tauri runtime Rai. Interesting. We might need to deal with that. So this run, let's make sure that we are covering everything we need to do there. I guess there's not an expect on this. So we're only doing a .expect on the app builder. Run just executes. So that would be that error right there. and looks like that's dealt with itself. This, I think, continues to be an issue as far as IDEs go, but it's not actually an issue as far as Rust goes. This is a macro, and Rust Analyzer, which you can see here, is the thing throwing the error, and it's a proc macro panicked. What are we? We are on PNMP, I think. Oh yes. So we're actually running this with Cargo Tauri Dev. So I don't think there's anything that we can do to actually like fix that. It's just gonna be, that's an IDE error, so it's something that you could end up just having to ignore, which is sort of annoying, but it is what it is. All right. Unused result that must be used. So this is in our previous code, it looks like, line 61, which is hidden. So what is it not like about an unused result that must be used? Now there's probably going to be better ways to handle this. As I get funny in the background of my screen over here, let me make that go away. It's distracting. Within Rust, you have, after functions like execute, they return with specific types, some of which are wrapped types. And so like one of the things that you might end up seeing pretty often is the result, and it's wrapped because then the intention is you take that and you handle both the basically the true or the false situation for the result, and that helps you catch errors because you're handling effectively every case, and you can have like a default case which handles all of the results that you didn't expect, but it lets you be a little bit more specific about how to handle issues, and depending on the app context or the context of how you're using the app, the ideal can be that you never want to panic. So you want to handle every case, and even if you throw an error, you don't want the app to actually crash. There are cases though where, like, especially when you're first starting something, it's not worth handling every situation until you sort of like are done prototyping. So just unwrapping or cloning ends up being, I've found, an easy way to deal with it. And you'll get panics with that, and you can just come back and deal with it later. Famous last words, right? So this was saying that it had a result that wasn't used, so you need to do something with it. You need to handle that result. And here we're just choosing to unwrap, which will, if the result that it returns is any type of error, I believe. Yeah, result or error. Then your program might panic and crash. But that's fine for right now. This is more just a sort of like test events. Okay, cannot start next. Your node modules is stale. Please run pnmpi first. Okay. We will cancel this. pnpi. Log file is up to date. I guess we can update. Volta is the package, the manager of the package managers, and it allows me to, without having to go like download it manually, I can have different versions of pnmp per project. Right now here I just have like a global install of it, but you can give it context based on JSON files or whatnot to have it use different versions depending on what folder you're running it in. But since we don't have that, it's using the default global. I can do like Volta list, I think it is. So those are all my defaults. Couple handy binaries that I will use, but also you can see a Node, npm, and Yarn default versions as well. So I think we can do a pnmp build. I might not actually need to do a build. Interesting. Must not have actually. I guess I actually need to be in the directory to run that. I did this last time too, where I just went for it and just full send, drop in and full send. There's docs, and it's set up a little bit differently than I would have expected, which is fine. I mean, it is what it is. It's just I should have read. So here, this is what it's asking when it gives us a stale warning. This is what it's sort of mentioning. Do I have? Okay. So let's run cargo Tauri dev. There we go. We got our Tauri wrapper, and Nux does not appear to be giving us any errors now, which is good. Okay. So what we have done is registered this global shortcut. So once this starts up, we should be able to try it. The window's running already, so I think we could. This startup here is the Nuxt startup process that I think is taking a bit of time here. So I think if we do the control 1, because I'm on Windows, so Commander Control 1. Yeah, see, there we go, new title. That refresh happened because Vita's starting to roll here. So I think our titles are working. Now what we can do is what we were trying to do previously, which was create a new window. Tauri.app. Some of this I probably can write just off the top of my head at this point, just from playing around with it. But it's nice to always go back to the docs. Partly just makes it easier for me. Trying to keep less context in my head is nice. But also it can help y'all watching. And as we're going through, I get a good indication of how much of the stuff that I'm trying to do is actually in the docs. It's not always easy. It's not easy to write docs. I very much respect the people that are able to write good and thorough docs. But as somebody writing the docs or working with the within the team that we're all sort of working on improving the docs, it's easy to have blind spots. So just sort of having a project to work on, see where these blind spots might exist, both within the process of creating the app and like APIs, but also as far as the docs go, telling you how to do the thing. And like some of this, I think, is if you're more familiar with Rust and can read like doc.rs, some of this may be less painful to just figure out yourself. But like, I don't know that I would have been able to like figure out that there was a build versus run without seeing examples. Oop. Interesting. Getting not skipping that many frames. I got a notification on my stream. Actually, curious what it says. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. It's possible it's just an internet thing. It seems like it's fine. Let me know in the chat. And hopefully my chat is working. I had to actually run the chat last week from localhost because it wasn't working from the main branch. I pushed something up that had an error. But I this morning remembered that was the case and pushed something up to fix it. So hopefully that's working now. Okay, so multi-windows. We want to create a new window. And this is all within the context of setup. But we have an app handle, which is very much what they're doing here as well. So the setup, it looks like the setup and the run ends up sort of being the same situation. Multi-window, creating a new window. Runtime. There was okay, here's the JavaScript. So there's basically two ways you can do it. There's the JavaScript and there's a Rust side of things. So you can get a hook to the main window in the front end, or you can do it in Rust. Here's that unwrap that we talked about. And the OK is basically kind of a no-op in this case for just saying, hey, we know we're getting a result as a return. Like, that's fine. We're basically saying that we're cool with it, and you can just no-op. So it looks like the separate windows are done through threads. And this is going to be creating a new window pointing to index.html. This is actually going to give us two windows. So we get a hook to app. Scrolling back for a little bit of context here. In setup, this is within the setup. We're doing a docs window and a local window. So we should be getting two additional windows if you would copy and paste this. So using the setup hook ensures static windows and plugins are initialized. We can also create windows after we're done building the app. So like this would be like compile time, like built in, like the app starts, open up these windows. After the app is running, it's kind of interesting because this is like after it's running, do additional window builds. This method is useful when you cannot move ownership of values to the setup closure. Okay. In our specific case, though, I think there's also commands. Okay. We have an app handle in our run, so I think we can probably do. Here we got an app, and this is a reference to an app. This is actually using the app handle. So I think this is going to be the one that we want to give a shot here. And we can also do external URLs. So we're going to sort of smush some of this together. We've got our app handle. I don't really care about the main window. And I am going to, instead of window builder new, instead of doing these, I'm going to do the external one. So this should open up Tauri.app as a separate window when we trigger this shortcut. So the question mark operator can only be used in a closure. The returns result are an option. Okay. So what they're doing is they're saying build question mark, and then the return of this is basically the okay. So we're saying, hey, you know, we're getting a result back. Like, it's fine. Tauri window builder new. And that is outside of this. So I think I actually want to do that. Maybe not. We want to do app handle, app.handle, and that gives us handle. And then from there, we are registering. I wonder if I need to do this again, because we already have app handle here, and we're using a reference to it, so I don't think I actually need to specify app handle again. We're doing a standard thread spawn, and that whole chunk, then we need to return the okay there. Okay, so I think we're down to this question mark. Expected found enum. So the closure needs to return result or an option. Is that return happening in let local window? Let local window. What is this end up returning? I guess there is a. I think what's happening is here we get, when we're doing new on an external window, the interface ends up being slightly different, because an external window, that failure case is slightly different because it's a like network issue versus a like, hey, we can't load the file. So you end up handling those differently. So I think we can kind of go like this. I'm just going to take that out for right now. I don't know that I need it. Okay, move out of app handle occurs here. I'm not sure if I need to do. I don't know if I need to do the move or not. It's going to be a little bit of a question as far as so it is moving the handle. I am grabbing an app handle here and cloning it. And and then I'm moving it into here. Then I'm also moving here. All right, let's see if the compiler can help us out a little bit. I'm gonna expand the window. Unused variable, local window. So the local window is fine to be unused. So we're gonna return OK there. So that should get rid of the warning. And now we are cannot infer type of the parameter E. Oh, we need an expect. So in this case, so what does that end up? That gives us a window. So we might not actually need that okay. Yeah. Unused variable. Do they actually use that anywhere? Docs window. Guess they don't really like reference it anywhere. We'll underscore it and just say we are fine with it being unused. So this whole thing spawn is going to give us a handle, and we're unwrapping here, and that unwraps the result or error. All right. Okay, so this is going to be the piece I think that's going to give us a little bit of issues, because the move stuff I am a little bit less familiar with, so we're going to have to sort of work our way through this. The variable move due to use enclosure. Move occurs because the app handle has a type app handle, which does not implement the copy trait. So we have an app handle. We are cloning the app handle to be used in the global shortcut manager and then registering it. The move, let's look at this here. It is moving the, oh, it is recloning it. Okay, so maybe I do actually want to just reclone it here. Okay. Is that the same error? 105, 105, yeah. Move out of app handle occurs here. So this is doing an app handle clone. We've got a clone up above for this top level app handle, and I'm presuming it's recloning it. So it's this handle is getting moved into here, into this scope, and then it's being cloned again, and then we're using it. So we might need to do. Oof. We have app handle, cloning it, global shortcut manager. Then we move it into this scope. And that gives us an app handle, another clone of it. And then we're moving it into this scope. All of that feels not great. But if it compiles and works, we can always improve our code after. Like, basically, deal with the errors, get it to compile. We can deal with the panics and unwraps after like we've got something working. All right, so it started up. We so this is actually not signed in. I'm not signed in right now, and this is pointing to the main elk like homepage, which I think is web.tools or something. I think it's something like that for the URL. Now our global shortcut should be working. So if I press Control 1, we should get a whole new window that points to the Tauri docs. There we go. Tauri docs. So what we can do is, and now this comes into sort of the next question. If we can get a new window, I can probably split this off as a separate function, because we want this to be able to be run from both the event, the update event coming in, but also like we want a test case for it. And we also don't want this in our production build, which I'm hoping to grab. Don't see any. I can't remember what those are called. Config attribute. I'm questioning my use of the terminology for it, but the config. There's a name for it. I can't remember it now though. Config decorators. I don't see one, but I think there's a config decorator. Add config decorator here, so it is only bundled to run in dev mode. Okay, note to self. There's a to-do. To-do. I also have a plugin which is pretty nice. Anytime you say to do, if you have this this plugin, which one is it? To do's. Wow, I'm getting a lot of things to. A lot of what are these called? Extensions. Oh, we got a bunch in there, but here we go. To do. What are these? Yeah, see, that's pretty nice because the level or the amount of effort required to just throw a to do in there for like future reminders is very low. So even if you just drop a to do in here, if you forget to open up an issue and come back to it, like anybody reading this will see it. But also like having this interface that just says, hey, these are all the to-dos, I think that's really nice. Low level effort to make sure that you don't forget to do something that you intend to do. So we got a run, we're getting the shortcut. We will also throw in a to do, split this off as a function that the update event can also call. All right, it keeps rebuilding. Anytime I save, it's going to rebuild the app. So if you see it flashing, it'll I think I have it set to show up in the middle. Maybe it remembers the last. No, it doesn't look like it remembers the last position, at least out of dev mode. It keeps popping over on the far left of my screen here. Okay, so we got a new window. Question. When we open up a new window, it's going to have a web view. We can point directly to an index.html and have it open up that directly. That is an option. We could also potentially point it at the elk index.html at a specific URL to sort of like redirect it to, you know, like keep all the code in as far as like view layers go in one spot. But this event is also going to come with information about what the update includes, and that's in a JSON, I believe. And it has a string, which is actually in Markdown. So we need to be able to handle taking input, maybe updating the state of this component. And at that point, we want it to render Markdown. So like, what is Nuxt capable of? Do we use Nuxt to be the thing that renders the Markdown? Can it render it in runtime? Or do we just do like vanilla JS-ish? Because we're probably going to need some packages. These are all questions that we basically need to answer. What version of Nuxt are we on? And part of the reason I know it's Nuxt is because when this starts up and loads, it says Nuxt. So like that's my indication. Nuxt is I think primarily static site generator. Maybe it has SSR built into it now. But the component/view layer is Vue, which I'm also less familiar with. So a lot of like poking around with things that I am less familiar with on this line of projects here, which is kind of fun. You're learning along with me. We got docs. I guess we go to the docs. I was looking in here to make sure. I mean, we've got Nuxt. Nuxt 3. So this is, you're reading Nuxt 2 docs. Head over to nuxt.com for v3. Oh, Nuxt.js. Okay, interesting. Nuxt 3 docs. Kind of surprised there's not a sidebar. There we go. There's a sidebar. Transitions, routing. Layers and extending support. So it does have some data fetching built in, which potentially gives me hope for being able to still render Markdown. Although they specifically say use async data. Okay. That might be helpful. We're going to be getting, I think we're going to be triggering an event. We're going to be listening on the backend, so the Rust side of things. It's going to be listening for this update event. When it receives this event, it's going to trigger opening up a window, and I think we pass information from that event to opening up the window. So once the window opens, then we give it the update context, basically. So I think we could potentially do a thing where we render a component and the component waits for data to come in. So once that event triggers, then something like this resolves. I'm not sure. I am not sure if it's gonna make sense. I think we can probably do it, but I don't. Can we do? I guess search for Markdown, place for Markdown files. I have a suspicion. I have a suspicion that it's not going to runtime render Markdown. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure that out just by searching the docs without like reading through them, and it might be actually easier to ask. Because a lot of the people that are involved with these tools are also in the Discord server. So, I think we just go straight vanilla JS. We're not going to render something pretty, but if we can like hook up all the events and get everything hooked up, at least piping that information into a web view, I think is going to give us just straight away a better experience. Michael H, thanks for stopping by. Tauri is Wasm? Question mark. No. I feel like there is lots of other questions laced in with that question. So I might ask that you expand on the basis for the question. Tauri is a native app builder. It has a few lower level functions built into it, but it primarily creates a native app that will open windows and can the window can contain a web view. And that web view is the thing that's rendering whatever web type content you put within it. That web type content can handle WASM, and it can render things that do WASM interactions. But Tauri itself is not WASM. WASM is more of a target. It's less of a... You can write straight WASM. You're probably not going to have a great time though. So the more common, I would say the more common way to use WASM would be as a rendered target or as a output target. So your code is running. You can use something like Rust. What is it? Rust bindgen. Rust bindgen. Or is it Rust Wasm bindgen? It wasn't bindgen. This will take your Rust code and create a WASM file, of which that could then potentially be loaded into a web front end or web view, and then that code can be executed. There are other uses for WASM that don't involve web views and front ends, but that's a whole separate topic. So I think the short answer to is Tauri WASM? No. Can it render things that have WASM? Yes. Hopefully that helps. Feel free to continue asking questions. It's not the easiest of topics to grok. WASM, that is. Okay, so as far as our next considerations go, I think that's going to stay as an open-ended question. We don't have, unfortunately, all day to stream. So rather than me trying to read the Nux docs, I think we're just going to pipe into vanilla JS. Let's get I guess we just make an index.html at the root, and we will just roll with that for the moment. Oh boy, typing. Gonna help me out, Emmett, here. Remember the syntax. Insert Emmett. What is the syntax? HTML? Oh my goodness, come on. I wonder if I just don't have the huh. Oh, whoa, emoji picker. I didn't know I had that. Okay, well, doc type, fine. HTML, fine. Oh, is that really? No, okay. We'll roll with that. The thing that I was trying to do was that there's a ID helper, I guess you would call it, that is called Emmet, and it can kind of like pre-fill / template some of this stuff for you. And I thought I had it set up and working. I might just be misremembering the syntax. But you kind of just like type HTML and it does all the boilerplate structure for you, which is handy. What we could actually probably check. No, don't see anything in public. Sometimes the static site builders will have it like a shell that you can pipe directly in, or that it ends up piping directly into. But I don't see anything there. No big deal though. This will be fine. It'll at least give us something to render to. So we need to open up a new window, and we're not actually using the external anymore. So all of that like futzing around with the external, no longer valuable. We are going to label it as update. I don't need the local anymore. And we can get rid of that. So we're looking for an app. Do we bring back this okay now? So just really doing a, yeah, I'd almost rather just do an expect. So our message should be update window failed to open. So this should be spawning a new window on a thread. And then once we have it, our listen event, do we pipe in the listen and such through here? That is a question. Alright. So now if we open, it is opening like the root one. So we need to do, I think we do need to specify, I'm gonna have to remember how to do this. I think we do need to specify that that gets bundled. I'm gonna go ahead and open up a past project that we have worked on stream here. Tauri Playground. We have a, no, that's not it. I did it in a different repo. Ejected. I should probably make a reference to it or something. I did it as a separate app because it is sort of like its own separate app that may actually be useful to run separate. Or like, you know, be something that is a thing that people want to use. I don't know. Is what it is. So, what was I doing? Keep distracting myself here today. Tauri is where we want to go. Multi-window. What was I doing? Oh my, I distracted myself here. App handle. We are opening up a window and it is opening up an index. So we need to say, I think we're actually doing it from the web view, which might end up making this slightly more painful. We're opening up the window controls.jsx, I believe. So if we look at our app, no, we're not. That is the thing that's doing the opening. So when we click on that, we are opening up a new window creation. That's what I want. When we do that, we are opening up a new HTML file called that, which should be window URL. Ooh, I don't know that that's right. Yeah, that's right. And we need to be giving it HTML. And that is, in our case here, it is in the root. Not in the root. Where do we have it? Public. I put it in the public folder. I don't know if I like that. Either way, I believe we need to bundle it. And we need to make sure that when Tauri builds, it's a separate file. It is aware of some files based on this. It's bundling that directory in to the binary that ends up being created. If we have additional things that it has to include, though, we need to make sure it's aware of them. So this is like the thing to configure default windows. More Windows stuff, some Mac OS. I wonder if it ends up just unintentional, well, not unintentionally, I guess it's intentionally, getting included with when this builds, it's dumping stuff into a disk directory. I wonder if it's basically just copying that in there through the public folder. So we end up essentially tricking, I guess, tricking it into being aware that that file's bundled in. I guess not be aware, but tricking it into including that with our built app. I think there's a way in the config to include it though. Resources, app resources, each resource is a path to a file or directory. I think that's what we want to do. So let's do here. I think it was in Tauri bundle, I believe. Nope. App image and publisher. We do have resources. So this, we're gonna put it at the root, and we're gonna do update. Wow, update.html. So now in here, when we refer to it, I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure what the path is going to be here. I already rebuilt. This was the previous rebuild, so we're going to have to, I think, give it a second to rebuild and point to this. What we want to see, though, is that this update.html ends up getting opened up. Now we could technically do, I think the way it's going to bundle it is any resources is just going to put like in the root. So if you can think of the like dist directory as a folder, it is serving the root of that dist directory, and then we can copy additional stuff in there, I think. So if we open up a new window, okay, page not found, update.html, interesting. Yeah, I'm not 100% certain where this is going to end up showing up. It could very well be that we are pointing here. So we might need like a dot on there, and it might be at that root. We'll find out though. So let's try that. Can we... Are we able to potentially build it and figure out the pathing here? We've got a debug build. Here's our elk.exe. These are all the built depths and such. Examples, interesting. Incremental builds. Ah. That is the thing that we want. I don't know why it's in that directory though. So still trying to go to that, which is weird. Oop. What if we put another folder level on it? We can also look at here, the path portion of an app URL. For instance, to load this, you can simply provide users John in the configuration. So the problem is I don't know where that is going to end up being. We are copying in assets, and I don't know like what the default root is. Page not found. See, this is the other thing. Why is it doing the routing for this way? Let's double check the guide and the multi-window. It's opening up the app index.html. And it does that for all of them. In our case here, it's in the public directory, so nice. It is in the public directory, but our reference to it, I guess if we look in the front end. Window creation. We are creating the window going up one folder level. And I think basically what we're like, the root of this thing is going to be based off the dist directory. So when we this pathing stuff too, I think this is something that we could potentially dig into more as far as like helping the user get these paths right. Because even after I've sort of figured it out, it's still sort of not the easiest thing. So here, our dist directory, it goes up one level and it's the dist folder. So I think our paths then end up being, like if we look at, is this thing built? Yeah, elk. Like if we look at and inspect, this is the root HTML. But we're also hitting that URL, I believe. So like if we look at this is pointing to a URL essentially. And I think these actually don't work. Oh, yeah, it works. What doesn't work though is if I right click and open it up in a new window. Because it's going to this local host. So actually, now that we have this window open, can we play around with this URL? So if this is the root, what if we just go to, it's not gonna be able to, it's not gonna let us edit the URL here. Bummer. That is pointing to the local host. Can we do like there's a navigate, right? Navigate. Nav. Is it navigation dot? Navigation.navigate. URL. So if we go up one URL, interesting. So there's like some redirects too that's happening here, which I think is making this slightly more confusing. If we go up 2 levels though, we are at the root. So if we do update.html, yeah. And this is on navigating relative to like the current page. So interesting. It would be really nice to go have a way to like in dev mode be able to see with the file structure. I feel like I'm finding that more and more where that ends up being a pain point where like in other architectures it's kind of a local host, a thing that's being that's like essentially like standing up a server and you're hitting an endpoint to do all the routing, like it's sort of like statically serving content. Here we're like copying code and starting up. Oh, cough came out of nowhere. We're copying all the files into a directory and like putting that in as part of the binary, and the web view then loads files directly rather than like routing to them. You can still as we saw with this example, open up a window that points to an external URL. So we could technically use that to do like point to nightly builds or canary builds of elk-native. Excuse me, of the Elk web app. That is a potential. But in our case, we specifically want to open up a file. Okay. Let's look at the config. Let's see if it's gonna give us a little help here. I'm gonna just search for resources here. App resources to bundle. Each resource is a path to a file or a directory. A lot of these are, there's the logging thing that's set up. It's got some web sockets in there. I think that's the thing that we want. Is there anything else about the resource? FS allow list scope. Tauri app config resources. There we go. So if we add in resources, we potentially need to enable it in the scope. Here. Resolve resource. Okay, so we can get a path to a file. That might be something that we want to do. We have a handle already. Path resolver. You can try it. I think the helper here to I think we can just use the same one. The helper here to throw an error, I think might actually end up being quite useful. I'm guessing we still need the into. Not 100% certain of it though. Path buff. What is app expecting? App is expecting a path buff. Into converts. So I don't think actually we need the into, because that takes the string and converts it into the thing that app is expecting, I believe. So this is saying it's not used, it is used, that's fine. Unused manifest key. Dev features, sure. So build. That's a pretty good sign. We'll run this. There we go. I would like more information. I guess I can rerun it with backtrace as one. Thread unnamed panicked a call rust.unwrap. So basically what we were talking about before, where we say, hey, if the thing panics, like, would just crash the program. That's what's happening here. The spawn move, yeah, so within this whole thing we're throwing an error here. We expected it to resolve, which bubbles up to the register of which we're just doing an unwrap, so it's just panicking. Panics the values in error, so we're getting an error, so it's just panicking, and then the panic message is provided by the with a panic message provided by. So if we do it shouldn't contain the error message. So if we say, I'm guessing we need Rust backtrace in there to help us out a little bit. And I think that will then enable us to see the actual error message. So this is still Nuxt. We don't really need to wait for this thing to build, so we're just gonna go ahead and hit our command here, and we get more information. Invalid URL. Tauri manager, window manager, Rust C, unwrap failed, panic. Thread unnamed panic to call. Unwrap. Invalid URL. Some of this isn't terribly helpful. That's also why handling these situations would be nice. Wait for it to rebuild again. I think this is going to work. I think it is. It's expecting a path buff, so this should work. I wish it was giving us more information, though. In which case we may want to do we handle it? So if we have a result or an error, we want to do what are our options? So we can do an expect. So we can do so what this is saying is don't use expect because it's going to panic. Rather handle the error case or use unwrap, which is fine. This would basically avoid all panics. Can be used instead of unwrap error as a maintainability safeguard. The OK type of the result is later changed to type that can actually occur. If the value is an OK with a custom panic message. Oh. I guess we can just match on this, eh? I really don't want to deal with it though. So we could set a default. Arguments passed to unwrap are regularly evaluated if you're passed, which is lazily evaluated. Be nice to have a bigger window over here, but so unwrap or default. So default here is 2, and they got an OK and an error. So if it is an error, it'll show us the default. It may be eating the error too because we're doing this thread spawn, and I'm not quite sure how to best. Is finished. It's a dot thread. I don't really need a handle to the underlying thread. Okay, well let's just maybe we can poke on this a little bit. I suspect it's something where we are saying the dist directory is this. So if this is the like default root and we're copying it into this location, I think we need to do maybe 1, 2, 3. So if we do 1, 2, 3. And that should, if we're here, basically we're like saying that those are dot dots to match up, I believe. And this might be why I did it the other way. It was hacky, but it worked. We are getting it to be like copied over, so like it's clearly picking up on something, but the fact that the dev mode thing might be making this difficult too. If we're pointing to a server for this file, that could be, all the pathing could potentially be based off of this, which is why it is slightly confusing. And when it actually is built and distributed, then that's what we get. Node command, dist directory is there. Is there any way we can like serve some of those static build config, I guess? Runner. Dist directory. The path to application assets are URL to load in production. So that's sort of the important bit. If you point to index.html, it's going to just use that. Features past Tauri commands. You can also provide a list of paths to be embedded, which allows granular control over what files are added to the binary. And all files are added to the root. An array of files to embed to the app. I don't think it's going to make this any easier though. Well, I think probably the easy thing to do for the moment would be, let's just drop this into the public directory. And I think that's going to end up getting still question the actual route, but I think that I will be a cheeky way to get it in there. Failed to run custom build command. Unused manifest key. Nope. We don't have that resource anymore. So could
potentially be choking on that. Nope. I was gonna comment this out, but it's not gonna work. Seems like that might have been the issue. Because it was trying to bundle that resource. That resource didn't exist. And I guess we don't have any nice error catching around it. Okay, so we hit the shortcut. We are getting an invalid URL still. Let's try just to make sure we aren't. Whoop. Update.html .into, just to make sure we aren't running into anything odd here. This is sort of the way that all of the examples do it. I think this resource path should work, but also we've got a lot of layers here that I'm just not terribly comfortable with. All right, so we ran our thing. Hey, look at that. Okay, yeah, hello. After we have opened that up, we want to be able to emit events to it. I think what we want to say is on the Windows side of things, we events. So front ends can listen for specific events. Back ends can also, but there's an emit, so we can emit with the event name to all WebView windows. So when this event comes in, we could potentially open up the window, then emit the event. I don't know if we can actually open up the window passing information to it. Like, it seems like it's just, we're gonna take a URL essentially. Now what we could do is we can listen for events. And I think once it's listening, we don't have to worry about, I think we can just fire off the listen event, and then the emit should work. We will already be listening to the event, and this is on listening. I think we added a listener. Should we do it on the front end? I guess we need to listen to it on the front end. So this, because it needs to get to the event. So if we do emit an event, create a new web view in a minute. I think we basically just want to do this. And if we do, where's our update isn't here now, which is kind of not great, but quite sure why you didn't format that well, but open up this window. We should be hopefully listening for an event now. Cannot use import statement outside of a module. Okay. Type equals module. Refresh this window. Build resolve module specifier. And that's basically bundling issues. So what we can do is, I think we can do like esm.sh. I think this will end up working. The playground maybe. And I think we import. That's not what I want. I guess I can just drop it in there as a. Do we put the at symbol in there? React. tslib. You're not gonna help me out with scoped package, are you? esm.sh/. We'll just try it. This should give us an import directly to that file. We're gonna want to bundle it for prod, but at least this will give us. I hope this will give us the. It seems like it's working. So we're listening for an event called click. Update notice, we will call it, and we will log out the event, and we don't need an emit here. This will reload some of that, and then on our Rust side of things, if we once this window is created, you should have a handle to it. So if we say local window, we don't need to do this anymore. .emit emits an event to the JavaScript listener. We need an event, which is a string. Update. What did I call it? Update to notice. And then I believe it's a payload. Yep, payload. And this is also going to be a string, looks like. So before, anytime we would change anything within the context of our next elk front end, all the buzzwords, it's just going to do the hot module reloading. So that's why you saw just these windows reloading internally. When we change the Rust side of things, it actually rebuilds that whole container essentially. So did we get the event? It's gonna fire right when it opens. We might need to like do a delay or something. Can I keep the, whoop, no, I don't want to maximize. I want the, it'd be nice just to keep the dev tools open. So if I open up this window and then look here, like this, if this event is actually happening, it probably has happened already.
So like, I don't think I'm going to see this. So what I could do is document dot append and this looks like it's either a string or a node. So if I do something like this, pre, this should, I believe, is stick it on the body. And we can do JSON dot stringify event dot or event slash comma null 2, and that I think is going to give us like a formatted JSON blob. So let's go ahead and close this. This should have reopened. Doesn't seem like we're getting it. We do have the code. It should be listening for the event. We are doing this all within the thread because I want the handle to that window. Build should create the new window. I'm not sure if it's going to be ready yet though. So that's the other thing that could be happening. We are emitting an event on update notice. We are listening for update and notice. It's not really helpful, is it? Like it's possible that we're just not straight up getting the event. Do we see this? So we do get the event right away. So it's possible that we're not actually receiving it. Import. Listen. We're listening for an update notice. Is there like a defer? Oh, I wonder if it's an async thing. MDM script async. If the async attribute is present, then the classic script will be fetched in parallel. So that's a different async. So MDM script top level await. You can use the await keyword on its own outside of an async function at the top level of a module. Okay. So this should be working. So once it's listening for an event, if we do, well, this is only going to fire if we get an event. That is named this. We are emitting it to does this payload need to be something else? Oop. Let's double check our events here. So on the back end, if we are emitting an event, we need to do this. That could very well be why we're not seeing anything. And that payload is message. Why are we construct literal body without a path? Okay, so this needs to be the payload, I think. So we're doing this now, and then it's doing app.emit all. Ah, okay. Interesting. Feel like that could be a little bit nicer, but drop that payload in. So some of these like event emitting between Windows and between Rust and JavaScript, you end up having to go back and forth between strings and, you know, JSON is sort of what the front end is expecting. So you end up having to like juggle between those. I suspect we're not seeing the event because the window is still opening and the web view hasn't actually started up yet. So the listen event is still waiting. If we do, can we do like a sleep or something? At this point, I'm fine with Hacky. Yeah. Nope. Let's hoping that would help me out. Local window dot. What are our options here? So we have an emit all, emit to. It's an event to window with a specified label. So that only works for those things that have the listen event, which we do. Listen to an event on this window. This listener only receives events that are triggered using the trigger. Okay, so that's not what we want. Manage. Whoa, what's manage? Add state to the state managed by the application. We could potentially do something like that. So there's also events for like when it's ready and whatnot. So we could very well do. I think that's actually what we're gonna want to do here. We can do a listen, but we don't need to have it stick around forever. We can do a once. Listen to an event on this window a single time. So what we can do is we can wait for the window and then we can do the handler. And the handler is then essentially going to be this emit. So we're going to wait for, I'm guessing, the ready event. Let's go ahead and just go here. Guides, ready. Nope, event. JS, documentation events. Windows specific events. So there should be, I thought we had a list of events. Window specific events. References, maybe? No. Window events. Okay. So where was that? Tauri event. Enumerations, Tauri event. So there should be built in. Is this it? Here we go. Okay. This is what we're looking for. So there's specific Tauri events. So these are the events that are going to fire that are like global Tauri functions. So when you get an update status or update available, that's what we're going to actually want to listen to instead of using our our hotkey. So what we can do is window focused, resized. Is there a... I want to know if the web view is ready. Window created. File drop. Focus, move. I kind of want to wait for it to... I mean... no focus, I guess? It's popping up, so we should get focus. That just doesn't seem right, though. Once takes an event, which is a string. Oh, did I read that right? It's an impl into string. Okay. So I think we can do this. Nope. Does not like the handler. Closure. So once required by a bound introduction by this call, this tail expression is of type this. And I mean, that's okay. Do I not need these? There. So my handler is the ooh, nope, still doesn't like that. We might need to actually do an unwrap on this, but unwrap. How do you like that? Still not quite a fan. Expected a closure, but we found that the trait is not implemented for that. Ooh. All right, well, I was hoping that there would be an event that we could listen for. it doesn't seem like we do want to listen for events. So that's something that we should just kind of keep track of. It's in the, well, I guess this is specifically on the JavaScript side of things. What does this give us? Window event. So there's a focused. Destroyed, skill factor, theme change. Kind of surprised there's not like a ready event ready. All right. I feel like there's a better way to do this, but I think what we're gonna do for now is we're gonna take this out. Should have an expect there. Are we still? Yeah. Okay. So we're emitting an event. Can we just do a sleep? Rust sleep. I mean, we're already using a thread. So I only need this. We'll wait a second. K-millis. And this would be from the standard lib. Oh, 2 colons. All right. I don't like it. And there's going to be a better way to do it. There better be a better way to do it. This is not something that I want to rely on. But I just want to make sure that what we suspect is actually happening. So if we do this, is it that we are sending the event too quickly? So if we look at here, okay, so now we are getting the object. There we go. There we go. So it is that we're sending it too quickly. So we'll have to figure out how to wait somehow. That is what it is. We didn't get the what's the MDN append? It's a child, I guess. Append child. It's been so long since I have done this. MDN DOM add a node. Append element.append. Ah, okay. So we need to create an element first, and then we create element, then we append some text to it. Yep. And our text is going to be this. And we can actually pull all this out because here we can create a pre-tag. So pre-tag basically is a built-in HTML tag that doesn't have styling. So we can log out like a stringified JSON object that has a little bit of like help in formatting. And it should go ahead and close that. Open. We are seeing in our object, we are getting the payload. And we are not getting document.create. Set. That's a little bit surprising. Okay, I got way too many windows. All right. Close you. You are fine being open still. Go ahead and fire. Huh. Why? Why are you not? Ah. That's why. Although it's surprising that we didn't actually get an element that was created. So we still might not be doing something right. Let's go ahead and close this. Reopen that. We still only have pre window.document. What are we missing? What are we missing? So that should work off of the document. We can do. Go ahead and close this. We'll open up this. Let's go into here. And we should be able to go into the console. We didn't get our logged event. Curious. Oh, now we see it. I don't like it. So document dot append child node append. So let t equal document dot create element div and t dot append text. What? Window document dot get element I don't think name's gonna work. Get element by tag name body. Whoops. Okay, so that should give us the body, of which we could then do. So let's copy this whole thing. We can say const b equals this. So b is the body. Now we can do body let const equals body dot create. Oh, what? So that's just a reference to it. All right, vanilla.js. Vanilla.js create element. I mean, it should be working off the document. Create text node. I mean, we should be able to basically drop this in here too. So what we can say is we'll drop that in here and just make sure it's all working. And then we can swap out. There we go. Hi there and greetings. So document.create element, document.create text node seems to be the piece that we're missing. And then it does a append child of, okay, so it's appending more stuff in there. So I don't think we actually need any of that. So I think create text node was the piece that we were missing. Close here and open. Interesting. We are getting the object. We're just not getting the stringified. Should I flip-flop these? I mean, I don't think this should be an issue, but like if we go through the effort to do that. Value replacer space. Yeah, no, I have it right. That should be right. And that should give me a text node. Or a string of text, rather. All right, document.create element. I got that. And then document. Oh. Document.create text node. And then we append the child to that. And then we insert it before. So if I have I guess I can do a document create element. All right, you know what? Create element, get a current div. I'm just fine doing a straight up insert. I'm gonna assume that it's probably this. I don't really care about any of the other stuff. We will just let it do its thing. If it's formatted, that's fine. I just want to make sure that we're actually getting content in there and call it a day. Weird. Okay. Console.log this. Const event stringified equals this. Do this. And we will do this. Okay, that's weird. Ugh. Okay, I mean, we're getting it. We're getting the window label. We're getting the payload. Like, it's fine. I think we've got the pieces here. I'm not sure why it's not writing into the DOM. That is very confusing to me. I mean, it could still very well be something with DOM loading situation. If we do, like, this is going to be listening. I mean, we could just straight up bump this up to 10 seconds. We'll give that a shot. Okay, it's rebuilding our whole app. We'll give that a shot. And then, I'm not sure why it's doing that. I don't want that anyways. As long as we're getting the vents, we can kind of roll from here. Interesting. Why isn't the DOM updating? What are you doing? I'm confused. Update window. Oh, it's open already. Yep. I don't know. That's very surprising. And I have no idea why it would be doing that. It is what it is, though. I think we got sort of the piece that we want, though. We get the event that's coming in. We're gonna have to tweak how we're dealing with it, anyways. So I think maybe. Do we do this next time too? Maybe. We got a global shortcut, hotkey, which triggers opening up a window, and that window then gets an event piped to it. So we can also listen. We should be able to pull that out into a function, and we will be able to listen both for shortcut, which I keep saying shortcut. That's what it used to be called. We can listen for a hotkey in dev mode that triggers the update sequence. We can also listen for that event to come in and go through the same sequence. That sequence will include piping in the update notes, and then we just need to render it. So we get the event. We're seeing the event come through, but for some reason the DOM is not updating, and I'm not sure why. But Vanilla.js things, I could very well be forgetting some step, maybe? I feel like there's something little that I'm just overlooking, because it's clearly updating the DOM when I just do like the raw text. So I mean, it might be like a syntax thing where it has to be in a pre-tag or something, where something like that. Not a big deal. So then we need to answer the question. Obviously, that's not styled. We need to style it somehow, so it's going to be a matter of what can we do at runtime to render Markdown. Is it going to be a Vanilla.js thing? Is it going to be Vue? Is it going to be Next? So that's another unanswered question. But as long as we can get that data and pipe it into a web view, we can kind of go from there. So that might be a decent PR where we swap to using a web view. Just straight up like raw HTML, and then we can style it and go from there and put it in whatever we need to. But maybe the raw HTML will, or Vanilla.js, I guess, more so, will give us sort of good thing to stand on. But I think that's it for today. thanks for stopping by, everybody. Next week, I think we pick up some more of this. We'll see how things progress. I don't want to be holding up the project just because I'm want to work on it on stream. We might end up doing a different topic. We'll see. That is for next week. Have a good weekend. Keep experimenting, everybody. Bye.